Sometimes the things that seem like they won't work are exactly what needs to be done in order to succeed. Nowhere is this more true than in writing, which is full of all kinds of counterintuitive mindsets and thoughts that actually help you to improve. Today, we're going to have a look at some weird, somewhat counterintuitive writing advice that paradoxically actually will help you improve. Starting with caring less about your writing. You probably care a lot about your writing. The stories and characters and plot and whatnot that you craft are probably very near and dear to your heart. You probably guard your work like a mama bear protecting her cubs. But caring too much, being too emotionally invested in your work, can actually lead to problems. It is really common to conflate caring for the quality of your work with the actual effort and attention that you're providing it. We think that these are the same things. We think that when we care, when we get really attached and focused and neurotic about something, that we're working to make it better. We think that in order to produce quality writing, we have to care about it. We have to crave it. We have to labor and fret and worry and spend sleepless nights panicking over whether the scene with the butler getting shot with a spear gun is landing with the appropriate emotional energy. We think that all of this anxiety and panic and fear and worry that we have in our minds about our writing actually matters. The thing is, the feelings you bring along with you as you're writing are not necessary for producing your best writing and may actually be detrimental. You have a certain level of skill, a certain level of capability, and when you sit down and write with a clear head, that writing is going to be of a certain level of quality based on your capability and your skills. The effort you put in applying the skill you have is what affects the writing. Anxiety and fear and worry that comes along with the process probably doesn't really add anything and is mostly detrimental. Getting rid of those feelings is extremely tough to do, but the first step is lowering the attachment you have to the quality of your writing while maintaining the same level of effort. That's ultimately what you need to do here. You need to decouple the effort that you're putting into your writing from the level of emotional intensity that you feel about making sure that it achieves the quality that you want to achieve. Caring less about your writing does not mean becoming apathetic. A lot of people conflate those two things, but it's subtle, but there's a difference there. Caring less about your writing instead means approaching it with a fullness of effort and a tranquil mind. That tranquil mind will create space to allow your skill to come through on the page. That will ultimately make your writing better. Next, somewhat counterintuitive piece of writing advice is to ignore all tips, advice, feedback, and whatever else anyone tells you to try to improve your writing. Wait, if you follow the advice to ignore all advice by ignoring all advice, then you wouldn't be ignoring the advice to ignore all advice. All of the writing advice you hear, whether it's general tips or something specific about your writing, is wrong, but some of it is still a little bit useful. As someone who spews out a lot of this writing advice on a nearly daily basis, I am very much aware of this fact. I am under no illusions that the verbal nonsense peddled on this channel will actually do anything to make you a better writer. However, when you get tired of listening to my mouth make noises in your direction and you go off to work on your writing, that's where the magic actually happens. Advice is kind of like a map. It can guide you towards a destination, let you know where you should go, but a map doesn't actually get you to move. It doesn't complete the journey or even start the journey for you. Only you can do that. And also, if you didn't have the map, you could still arrive at where you needed to go. Taking steps, moving forward in some way is the really important part. You will eventually reach your destination, theoretically. It might take a little bit longer. There might be more effort involved. You might take a few wrong turns without the map, but you can still theoretically get there. Advice can help with your writing, but only insofar as it will point your actions in the correct direction. Everything you need to discover about writing can be learned just by writing. It might take longer, but writing is the key point. More time writing and less time listening to advice or seeking advice or whatever else like that can actually be good for your writing. Now that I say that, that doesn't seem that counterintuitive. Anyway, in spite of the things I've just said, please keep watching the video to the end. I have watch time metrics and whatever that need to be met. All right, next counterintuitive piece of writing advice is to produce writing that you know is bad. There's perhaps no greater irony in the world than the fact that in order to produce good writing, you need to produce a lot of trash. I have many times in the past forced myself to write a scene that felt so terrible, I couldn't even look at the page as I was typing it out. Luckily, am a pretty good touch typer, so it worked out. And every time I come back to one of those passages in the future, one of two things happen. Either it's actually fine and I can't even remember or tell or discern what the scene was I was having trouble with, or it is actually a bad scene and it is flawed in some way, but upon seeing it again, there are obvious fixes for the problems that presented themselves when I was initially writing it. What this ultimately means is moving forward in your project, even if that means producing writing that's subpar, is almost always the best way to go. This should not be used as an excuse to excuse sloppy writing or lackluster effort, but don't delay in making progress because you're trying to avoid producing bad writing. You are denying yourself experience. You are denying yourself a chance to iterate every time you avoid writing because you fear the result won't live up to your standards. You will never make progress by avoiding doing the work. Even if the work doesn't turn out, you still have to do it in order to move forward. You're not going to learn the things you need to learn to make that scene or that chapter good until you write a bad version out of it. This gets back to one of the big ironies in writing, which is that the best writers out there are the ones who have probably produced the highest volume of bad writing. So don't be afraid to produce bad writing. It will make you a better writer. And the last counterintuitive piece of writing advice we'll talk about today, give up. As a writer, you will likely collect drawers full of half or quarter finished stories, ideas and plots that just didn't go anywhere, or stories that you lost interest in. This is a normal part of the writing process and not necessarily a sign of weakness on your part. While developing the skill to finish projects and push through to the end is something very important that everyone should learn, learning when to jump ship on a story that isn't working and move on is an equally important skill to learn. Experimentation is how you'll discover what you truly like in a story. It will expose you to new elements, different genres, different characters, even different writing methods. Over time, this will help you whittle down what you really enjoy writing about, what really interests you. This is why developing the skill to give up and move on from a project is so important for every single writer. This can obviously be taken too far. You don't want to develop the habit of jumping to a new project the moment that things get difficult. Pushing through to the end of the project, even if you've fallen out of love with it, is a good thing to do, even just to prove to yourself that you can do it. But at the same time, if you're constantly laboring over projects that don't interest you at all, or just aren't working, or are so flawed that there's probably no way to get them to work, that's potentially a bigger problem. Anytime you jump to a new project, I would be conscious of two things. First, you want to understand what it is about the current project that has made you lose interest in it. Think about that and try to hone in on why you don't want to continue with it. Are you stuck because of some kind of technical reason? Are you unhappy with how you executed something? Is the story missing an element that excites you? Did you think that something would be interesting, but it really isn't? It could even be down to things like you're just really stressed out because of other things in your life right now and you don't feel like writing, so you've lost interest in the project because of that. That's one thing that I would do. The other thing I would do is think about what is attracting you to the new project you want to start, if there is a new project that you want to start. Why are you drawn to writing this story? What is it that makes you excited about this story but not excited about your current story? What this will eventually do is allow you to identify the common elements between the different stories that you're interested in writing and hopefully come up with an idea that brings all of those common elements together. Learning what you like to write is part of the process. And once you find a project that incorporates enough of these things, the writing process will get easier. Finishing projects and pushing through all the difficulties that come along with something big like a novel is always going to be difficult. There's nothing that will really make that easier. But part of what you need to do as a writer is figure out what really excites you, and you can't necessarily do that if you're always working on things that don't excite you. Speaking of exciting things, this video is about to come to an end, which is exciting if you weren't enjoying it, I guess. Anyway, so there you have it. If there is any counterintuitive writing advice that you have found has helped you, please share it in the comments down below. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out all my other videos and subscribe to my channel. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.